Alright guys, welcome back to Schmattz Outdoors. We're doing a little bit of update on my beaver skinning rack here for you guys today. I caught a beaver today. I got him on my rack here. We're going to show you what I got going on. I'm not going to show you every step-by-step on how to skin a beaver today. I have a video already up on my channel that I did last summer for you guys on how to actually do the skinning, fleshing, boarding of a beaver. So I'm not going to go through all that today. I'm just going to kind of show you an update of my beaver skinning rack. There was quite a bit of interest in that video. So like I said, I'm going to kind of show you how it actually works in action here. Again, I'm not going to show you every step by step, and I'm going to kind of show you the highlights of everything. So what do we got here? I'm spring beaver trapping. I'm doing a nuisance job, and I caught this female today. You can see the teats on her. You can see she's 47.8 pounds, but she's fairly wet still. You can see how damp she is, and her back hair is fairly wet. She was dripping on the floor when I had her hanging to measure her. So she's well over 45 pounds. It would not surprise me if she has little ones in her, but we're not worried about any of that today. Like I said, you kind of see, roughly how long she is. By the time I cut her tail off, she's going to be roughly flush on this end, and she sticks out on this end. This is a roughly 45 pounder. So, like I said, the bigger ones, even, I thought this worked even better. I had the two last fall close to 60 pounds, or 55 to 60 pounds, and they worked very well on this rack, skinned really easily. But you can kind of see just how she's laying there. She's nice and even on her back. Like, she's not really, she doesn't want to roll over on her side. Not that they typically do. They'll lay flat on their back and on their belly, but she's laying there nice. So what I'm going to do first, I'll cut her feet off, front and back, and I'll cut her tail off. I'll get my line up the middle, and I'll open her up here. And then I'm going to take the caster out of her, even though I don't think there's a lot in her. But like I said, once I get her kind of opened up again, I'm going to turn you guys back on. Like I said, I don't need to show you the whole process today, because like I said, I already have a video on my channel of how to actually skin a beaver from start to finish. Nothing really changes as for that. But once I get like skin from here, down to about the legs, I'm going to turn you guys back on, and I'll kind of show you how I go about, skinning the sides, and then how I move the beaver on my rack, and then, finish skinning one side, flip it the other way, or spin my rack completely around. I'm going to put you on a chest mount so you guys can see basically what I'm doing on my hands and everything as I'm doing it. So I'm going to try and go not necessarily step by step on how to skin a beaver, but I'm going to show you the high points of how the rack really works, and what I really like about it. This rack is, it's rock solid, especially with a 45-pound beaver. I mean, I could pull on that thing pretty hard, and it's actually shaking my table before it wants to slide, and I have plexiglass under it. So I got a layer of plexiglass on top of my table, and this doesn't really want to move. It's actually shaking my whole table before the rack wants to slide. So it's pretty solid on my table and everything like that, which I'm super happy with. And like I said, we're going to get going. Like I said, I'm not going to show you every step. I'm going to cut the legs off, the feet off, the feet off, the tail off. I'll get her opened up. I'm going to get the caster out of her. And then, like I said, I'll get it probably skinned about halfway down the side. And then I'm going to turn you guys back on. I'll kind of show you probably finishing skinning it from that point on. All right, we're going to get going and get this beaver skinned. We'll turn you back on when I get that far. Alright guys, so you can kind of see where I'm at here. So I just got done taking the caster out. It actually had a pretty nice set of casters in there. I mean, they're not super thick, but for a spring caught beaver and one that's been out making caster mounts and stuff, it actually has a pretty decent set of casters on there. I maybe left a little more meat on there, but we're going to leave it just like that. So we'll get those drying, but back to my beaver skinning rack. So you kind of see how I got it set in here. You know, I got the end. I'm going to tip you down just a little. You know, I got the end towards me. I pulled the beaver so the tail end was off a little bit so I can kind of skin around. And if you watch my other video, I try to like almost clean skin along the edge of the tail here, you know, as I go around, because you can't flush that edge very good. So if I try to like clean skin or get it as close to the actual skin as I can as I go around, then I don't have to flesh that last maybe half an inch off the end, and then I don't, you know, it's a little easier to flesh in the long run. So I got my beaver skin here. What I did is I basically skinned down halfway down each side, you know, and I didn't pull the legs out yet. I didn't get that far, but what I do, I think I showed this on my other video, I cut into the leg and go round and around with my fillet knife. That's what I open them up with. So I cut in a ways, so when I go to peel it out over the top, I don't have to try and cut all the way to the end of the leg. So that's why like the front leg is sticking out so far, because I went in here with my knife, you know, and basically went like this all the way around that leg. But I'm kind of going to start from here, and I think I'll probably show you most of the rest of the skinning of this beaver as I go all the way around. But I did both sides. I'm roughly halfway down the side. Just so you guys, you know, in case you didn't watch, I use a fillet knife, just a 4-inch fillet knife, and it's actually wore down some because I, you know, have used it for 5 years or more, one knife. I just keep resharpening it. And then I actually have a knife that's got a nice curve on the end. What that allows you to do is kind of make nice swooping cuts. So like there, you know, I just cut better than an inch all the way along the whole side of this beaver. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep going, and you can kind of see the board is right there. So the board is actually just behind right where I just cut. So I won't cut any more there, but we're going to get the leg cut open here. See, and by like cutting down in, you can see how easy that popped over that leg. So we're going to get the front leg going here. Got to get a little more down there. So I was just trying to do is just kind of figuring out where my leg was at here. I got to get... My beaver tend to, when I first open them up around the head, they tend to bleed quite a bit up around the head area here, so that's why I just stuffed the rag up there to keep it from bleeding all over. But in order to get around my leg, I got to get a little more cut in front of my leg here. I'm so close. There we go. So then I just stick my finger in the leg and kind of pull. You can see how it pulls all that nice and tight. And we'll pull down. So you can see I'm right to my board here. So I'm going to take my rag and wipe a little of the blood off. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab the side of the hide here. You can see how I got it. I got my finger in the leg. I'm basically right by the leg on this side. I'm going to lift. And you can kind of see that beaver just naturally, when I picked him up, because I'm picking up on the side, he basically flips down, and I just set him right back in there. So now you can see he's setting there perfectly. He's pretty solid in there, and I could pull, you know, pretty hard at me here, and he basically wants to stay standing up. So now I'm not like having to use the weight of the beaver to pull against me. You know, normally what I would do is I'd have this beaver laying on his belly right now, and then basically I'd be pulling up on the hide and almost cutting like down underneath, pulling up at me with this hand and cutting around till I get cut to this side, because he naturally wants to flop one way or the other, especially how fat and round this gal is. But by having her in my rack here, she's pretty solid right here, so I can pull pretty tight on her now and just basically keep working around. Get started back by the leg here a little better. You know, like I said, I'm not going to explain why the meat and all that in this video. You can watch my, go back and watch my other beaver skinning video. You can kind of see why I leave the meat, because there's not a lot of fat. Well, I'll explain. There's not a lot of fat or right out kind of between the two hips. So I try to leave a little more meat on my skin rather than like clean skinning in that area. And like I said, this is part of it too. You can see how much blood is running on my table here. Normally that blood would be in my fur right now, because my beaver would be laying on the table. And that happens to me every time I skin a beaver. I've tried doing different things around the head up there, but it seems like every time that happens to me. And I don't know if it's just where I'm cutting. I happen to nick a vein or something. I thought maybe it would run off the table here. So I just got a pail down here with a bag in there just to catch a little of that blood if it does want to run in there. But like I said, I don't know if I just where I happen to open them up or how I happen to cut them. They do that I get a lot of blood around the head every time. So all I'm doing is just grabbing and I'm pulling a fair amount. So when I make that cut, it opens, it peels it right open. Get down here, tail. Like I said, I kind of want to clean skin the end of that tail. So I actually cut my tail just a little, the fur there a little bit right on the very end. You can kind of see I cut a little notch because I actually cut it too thin. So the only thing I've found that you got to kind of watch is where this sticks up a little bit. See how it kind of leaves a hump? When I go to cut, there's a hump there and there's a hump on this end when you're running a little bit bigger beaver. So you just got to be cognizant of where that's at. But all I'm trying to do basically is get to this, right here's the spine. So that's basically as far as I want to go. We're actually going to try and wipe up some of this blood here. We're just going to wipe it in my pail. I just want to get just a little more up here around his head. See, and actually like right there, I just opened up the ear. So I'm all the way up to the ear. And like I said, I'm not fighting the beaver, the weight of the beaver at all. All I'm doing is just putting a little tension on the hide with my hand. But you can kind of see how that's laying. That's actually the edge of my rack there. So I don't want to try and cut anymore because I'm kind of cutting between the board and the hide right now, and I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is just flip him up. I'm actually going to grab the legs on the other side here, and we're going to just flop her back on her back, and we're going to spin her around. And like I said, I made my rack. My table's 32 inches wide. My rack is only 28 inches. So you see it is off a little here when I spin it. But just like that, I'm working on the other side of the beaver. So again, I want to get cut up around the head here and this front leg. Get it cut a little more down the side. So you can kind of see basically I'm only going to end up moving this beaver a couple times. So I pop that leg out. I'm pulling down right now. And I just kind of cut where that little web of flesh is there. Like I said, we're going to get the front leg over. Again, normally I don't really care about the thing bleeding. And put my finger in that leg hole and trim up to that leg. And again, right here you could see where my table is, so I don't, or my rack is, so I don't want to cut any farther there. Because I don't want to get like between my, cut like that into my board, or you're going to cut right into your hide. So I'm going to, again, just grab the legs, pick up, and set her back down. So it actually, that time it actually slid my thing. The back leg caught on the outside of that board, so it moved my, my rack. But again, she's setting basically perfectly in the, you kind of see how the head is setting there. So I should be able to just pull this guy around. And I'm putting pretty good tension on there. Like as much as I want, honestly, tension on there. And my rack does not slide. It's sitting there nice and perfect on my table. Where if I was doing this beaver just laying flat on my table, my beaver would actually be sliding at me. And then I'd actually have to kind of stop, slide her back on the table a little farther. Get around this leg a little better back here. There we go. So I just pulled her out a little bit because I want that tail sticking out. That makes it a little easier to cut around that cartilage kind of on the tail. than having it slid, you know, farther this direction. The head is the easy part, and when I get to the head, I'm actually going to slide her all the way to that end of the rack. Now I'm getting down. You can see I'm all the way around here, so I'm just gonna keep working myself kind of up the back here. And you can see my rack is down here and my beaver is up away from that rack, you know, so I'm not going to cut into my rack. And if I was worried about that, I can literally flip the beaver that way a little farther. We're just going to keep going right up here, and we want to get, I'm going to try and get just a touch more around the head here. The farther I get cutting this way, the easier the head actually gets. So again, right there's the ear. So I just got the ear cut. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold my beaver that way. I'm just getting her laying on her belly in the rack here. And then I'm going to turn my rack. So I got my hide is all up on top here, and I got my beaver with the head facing towards me. Now what I do is I just flip the hide, caught on the leg, flip the hide at me. I basically am just pinching right here on the hide, and I'm pulling a little bit, but the weight of the hide itself is actually pulling on that. Like here, I don't even really need to pull on it. You can kind of see how it's naturally, you know, the weight of the hide itself is enough to basically pull it off. What I do is I typically go, and you can see I'm kind of pinching it right here, and I'm actually kind of tipping my hand with my back of my hand, pushing like on the nose of the beaver, so I can put a little leverage kind of on there. Okay, so I got the ear right there, cut along the side, just rocking my knife up and down on there. Should be getting to about the eye here. Yep, right there's the eye. Cut across the nose. Here's the other eye. Like I said, I'm basically just holding up. I'm not even really pulling at me. The weight of the hide down here is actually pulling down. I'm just pulling kind of up and at me just a little, just so I'm not like way down here, so I can cut more along the side. If you leave it down here, I can't cut down there. Cut the side of the nose on each side and get out to the very end of the nose. You can kind of see where the teeth is. Then basically I just turn my knife and I cut. Basically I'm cutting almost back at the teeth, and voila, there's my hide. You know, a nice extra large beaver pelt, all finished. And like I said, I did not have to really fight that weight of that beaver at all. You know, a couple times I had to flip it, and then the worst part was basically getting her on her belly so I can cut the head. And as you can see, that didn't really take me all that much either. And I do have, like I said, the blood on my thing, but it's not on my pelt. You know, my pelt is wet. I knew it was wet before I started skinning, but I just use blue shop rags and I'll wipe up all this blood and I'll be done. But yeah, that's one skin beaver. But like I said, beaver rack, that's what those videos about. Just kind of an update on it and how I use it. Man, it works nice. This is the smallest beaver I've caught since I made it. And this is a 47 pounder, 47.8 when it was wet. I still think even a 20 pounder, I'm going to be using my beaver rack now. It's way easier, like I said, than trying to fight them laying just flat on my table, because then you're kind of fighting the weight of the beaver, and then when you're pulling, the beaver wants to slide off the table, especially with my plexiglass on there. The plexiglass is super nice because, like I said, I literally can just, you know, obviously if I had a little cleaner rag, but I can just wipe them off and, you know, my table will be clean here in 5 minutes. But all right, that's all I got for you guys today. Like I said, it's just kind of an update on the beaver skinning rack. What I think about it, I like it. I actually was a little concerned my boards were a little too wide. I have no concerns about that now. I mean, you could see kind of how that beaver's laying on there. You know, and this is a fat beaver side to side. Even like the 60 pounders weren't hardly that fat. But the beaver rack is perfect for that. But I feel like even a smaller beaver is just going to set down in there a little nicer even. I like it. So that's all I got for you guys. Like I said, just stay tuned to my channel. There'll be more educational videos like this, informative videos coming out through the summer here. I appreciate you watching. We'll see you on the next one.